Hello, 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 everyone. Mike Arnold here, co-founder of Pat Trading Partners, along with Bob Iacchino. How is everyone doing? No bottom yet. Slight little, some things bounced a little. So we'll get to the markets. S&P composite PMIs. Why didn't that disappeared off my screen? Were ugly, ugly, ugly. But the ISM non-manufacturing PMI were strong. So very big divergence there between the small to medium firms and the large firms. We'll take another look at that in a second. Let's see who's here. Good afternoon, Davey. Another Kathy Wood stock got smoked after earnings. Path. I hope no relation to Path Trading Partners. Hey, Rich. Good evening, Anissa. Hello, Options 22. Does that mean we're going to the moon soon? You mean once they launch Artemis the rocket? Or do you mean the markets? You're all over the place, Coco. All right. Hope everyone, again, had a wonderful day. Hey, AP's World. More and more people tuning in. No tardy slips to give out. By the way, if you are new here, please do consider subscribing, ringing that bell, and hitting the like button. Longer term subscribers, leave some comments and like the videos. Amadeus is in the house. We're all good to go from a musical standpoint. So, just to reiterate, again, the composite PMI, we're expecting 45, 44.6. That is actually a recessionary print. The services PMI, 43.7, very recessionary. However, non-manufacturing for ISM, expected 55.1, prior 56.7. This coming in higher than expected and higher than the previous. This, again, more ammo for that 75 basis rate hike. Business activity index coming in stronger than expected. Employment back above 50, so not in contraction anymore. New orders coming in better than previous, and prices coming in a little better than previous. So new orders stronger, prices a little better. So for people looking for a lower rate hike, that was not the ISM non-manufacturing report that they wanted to see. Other than that, not much going on. What's up, Sterling? Thank you for putting stuff out on the Twitter feed today, spotting that really nice short-term double top in the S&P. Hello, Lauren. All right, what's on deck for tomorrow? What's on deck for tomorrow? We'll get Bob on in a minute. We got the mortgage stuff coming out 2.5 hours before the open. Balance of trade coming out 1 hour before the open. Minor. Red book 5 minutes before the live stream. They know not to interfere with this live stream. Then we got multiple Fed speakies and beige book coming out. Oh, so what? 4 speakies and beige book tomorrow. Other than that, but Thursday, remember, Thursday's the big day. We got Powell and ECB on Thursday. Mixed day, healthcare up, some of the mega caps down except for Tesla. Oil down, some payment processors slightly up, but pretty mixed. We're losing downside momentum today. Looking for some more aggressive little bounce trades based off today's waning momentum price action. FOMC close to 75% now for that 75 basis point after that ISM. Still in deep negative gamma territory. One thing I wanted to point out before I bring Bob on, there is major put gamma at 3,900. That's going to be a very strong anchor point for the next couple weeks, unless we break it with a lot of momentum. So please do keep that in mind. Remember, OpEx is you know, you got the big quarterly OpEx, so you got quad witching in a couple weeks. And we got the big FOMC meeting. So September is going to be very interesting. Just wanted to point that out. So don't get caught off guard if we do get especially a slight rally to the upside that's more amplified due to negative gamma. I took a peek at Coupa and GitLab. GitLab was down, pretty big gap down. Coupa, they formed a daily double bottom right before. Then they released earnings and big gap up above all three targets. So that's what was watching. NIO tomorrow, Academy Sports. We'll check in on that one. That's really it. Then after the close tomorrow, don't forget all you GameStop fans who aren't here. We got GameStop. We got PLAY, Dave and Buster's. So there's a couple interesting things tomorrow in American Eagle Outfitters. All right, with that, before I bore Bob to death, let's hit the magic Bob button. Are you ready, Bob?
I am.
Bob is ready. There we go. You don't look ready.
I'm looking at stuff. Just actually finishing up here.
Well, I got to get your thoughts with the divergence today between the S&P Global Services and Composite numbers and the ISM non-manufacturing numbers. Let's get the Bob take on those.
Well, the Bob take is basically it kind of fits what we've been seeing going all the way back through the pandemic. Right now, the economy is more tuned to larger businesses and not smaller businesses. Regulations that have been made, laws that have been passed, tax policy, all angling, and then of course the pandemic lockdowns from 2 years ago, all assist big business and not small business. The ISM is large corporations. The S&P is small to medium-sized corporations, and they're collapsing is almost not a strong enough word for what's happening with the small, medium-sized businesses, just from a perspective of the way the S&P reports it. So, obviously we know where the numbers were. You already went over them. But S&P added a note to that. They said business activity contracts at the sharpest pace since May 2020 amid solid falls in new orders. That's from the S&P. Yet we get business activity in the ISM PMI hitting 60.9. So that's its divergence between a situation and environment where big business can handle it and small business cannot. And that's kind of been the theme since the pandemic. It's unfortunate. It's really sad.
Are we just going to lose all our small to medium businesses and we're going to be run by the
news out of the UK, or I should say estimates out of the UK, is that the energy crisis is going to cause about 60% of small businesses to close, 0% of large businesses. So, yeah, we're going to lose a lot of them. The problems with finding labor, higher minimum wages, higher actual real wages. It's really, really bad for small to medium-sized business here. So
that is bad. There's not much coming up tomorrow in terms, besides the Fed speakies. But then the Thursday, unless you're coming on Thursday morning, but everything's after. So let's see, Thursday. Although we do have ECB on Thursday. Any thoughts, ECB?
Yeah, unfortunately, the consensus is toward 75 basis points. And I say unfortunately because there's a lot going on from the central bank perspective globally, not just the ECB. The ECB, the European Union, arguably has one of the toughest situations out there, maybe only surpassed in the developing world by the UK. But since they're so intertwined, it's really, really ugly. So from that perspective, I think 75 basis points coming out of the ECB, but I think that'll be a one-time thing. I don't really think it's going to be the kind of thing where they're like, okay, next time we might do 75 or 50. Honestly, think it's going to be a one and done. They're just trying to throw that knockout punch to slow down the economy. But the energy crisis is going to slow it down on its own. And if they get similar numbers, first of all, the analysts have to be right about the UK. But then if they get similar numbers to the UK, this 75 basis points that they're likely to do, they're going to do at least 50, is going to look like a huge, huge mistake. So, yeah, it's ugly.
So, yeah, all right. Well, that's where we're standing. Then, and you think Powell's gonna say anything of interest on Thursday, or
I don't know. I mean, he's speaking at the same time as the ECB meeting, literally the exact same time as the ECB press conference. So it's going to be difficult to navigate the two. It'll be interesting if he talks about quantitative tightening. That'll be interesting to me because I don't think people realize today is when the Fed goes to 95 billion maximum in their quantitative tightening. Previously, they were at half that, right? About 45 or so. But it's interesting to note that over the 11 weeks or so that they've been tightening or letting stuff roll off, the balance sheet's only fallen by an average of about 17.5 billion a month. So if they were to actually go to 95 billion now, it's more like a 5 or a 6-fold increase than it is like a doubling. And I think that's part of the reason we saw yields run up on the yield side of thing, obviously, run up as high as they did. I mean, double-digit moves in one day, basically across the curve, right? I'm not looking at the final readings of U.S. Treasuries, but my last reading that I took this afternoon, I had the 2-year up 11 basis points, the 5-year up 15, the 10-year up 14, the 10-year is only 23 basis points off from that high, the high of June 14th. Prior to that June 14th high, the high close that we got this year, June 14th, you have to go to 2012 to find these yields again. So it may not look like much, but the markets are doing a lot. The bond market is telling us a lot.
yeah, the 10-year up 365 basis. I mean, on a percentage wise, but then up substantially, closing in on that next 3.374 target. I
Yep.
didn't glance at the final where closing in on the double target, and then that's rolling into a head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders. So
Yes,
we
it
should,
is.
huh?
Yes, it is.
So we have some acceleration back to zero. We've covered that a couple times, which does not bode well for the longer term market.
No, I just want to get that new low in the equity market so I could start pretending that I knew all along, rather than was positing that the low was not in. I want to be able to say I was 100% positive.
You want to say that, okay?
I'm of course not 100% positive, but never did believe those June lows would hold. We'll see. We're still a long ways away. At least it seems like it visually. It may not be.
We got, is that Jesus or Jesus? You know your live stream's doing good once you got Jesus watching it.
Yeah.
Uh, any thoughts on Casey? Uh,
Casey?
I need some more information.
Casey General Stores?
Or Casey Jones. You better
The
watch your speed.
symbol, the symbol for Casey General Stores is CASY. And believe it or not, I actually want to buy that. I like that stock a lot right now. But I don't really like any stocks that much.
When is their earnings on that? Their earnings is tomorrow.
Well, it pulled back to a breakout point, Mikey, on the weekly, and then the daily chart looks pretty good too. But I haven't, there's pretty low volume last week, so I don't know.
It's got, you know what, from the bullish perspective, it's got a nice
Mm-hmm.
flag pattern against breakout. Let's go to that weekly. Daily cycles at the bottom. The only negative is weekly still turning down, but you got the rising weekly rotation zone against key support after a breakout, but failed at the prior highs back in from May of 21. If I had to bet, though, I'd have to go with at least a bullish pop. If I had to make a bet, I have no horse in this race.
Agreed.
But so that's where it sits given this. But anything, you know what? In this with earnings, there's been some crapshoot earnings. Again, we saw something like Coupa you know, where is that? Is that still? Yeah, here. I mean, Koopa was what was running. Here was your double, running up even above the rotation zone. So that sort of, we'll call it, a knocked it out. They really beat on earnings and revenue, but then other things like GitLab, I know that they released after, and they are down after, and that'll be the close below the 62.5 most likely, which will favor them to retest the lows back from May, June. So that could get interesting too. Let's see. So there's your thoughts on Casey Sterling quote of the day. IAEA, your training report says there's urgent need for interim measures to prevent a nuclear accident arising from physical damage caused by military means. Did not see that.
Yeah, I didn't see that either. We need Christoph for that. We need Christoph.
Uh, Boy, there's always something going on now.
I know.
George,
Did
Bob,
did Zelensky actually ring the opening bell today?
I don't know.
That's what I heard. I didn't see it,
I
but I
didn't
saw it
see
on
the
Twitter.
opening bell.
I saw it on Twitter somewhere, and I was like, "Did I? Is that somebody just trolling, or did that actually happen?"
No, I
Anyway,
did.
I'm sorry. What did Gio
George
say?
wants to know. I'm wondering what could keep Bitcoin from going to zero. Does all the electricity used to get it to
No,
this point have any value?
it can go to zero.
It can
That's
go
it.
to zero.
Yeah, there's nothing keeping it from going to zero. It had a rough day today, and it's kind of a little short-term breakdown. So we still got some support there, but I don't know if anybody has been able to track down that CoinDesk video of mine, but I basically said that I wasn't buying any Bitcoin, and I thought that the regulators needed to get out of the way, and the stablecoin shit had to work itself out, which means Tether needs to go away. And since none of that's happening any day now, I'm staying away from it. I haven't been in it since mid March.
Uh, yes, until the tether mess gets cleaned up, there, because this can unravel quickly once. And I'm waiting for the next major down leg, because that's going to be very telling for the crypto market. Hey, Kratos, yes, Nasdaq closed under 62.5 to the June lows, so that favors a retest of the June low area now probability wise. So did the Dow. I don't think the S&P did. We're still waiting for the technical close on that, but that's 38.99. We're at 39.07 right now, so the S&P might hold up a bit longer, but I'm expecting that at some point. Remember, I talked about all that gamma sitting at 3,900. Yields and dollar index mooning are going to crush equities if they continue. Any thoughts on more? What about your thoughts on the dollar, Bob?
Well, I mean, my thoughts on the dollar haven't changed. I mean, how do you own any other currency, honestly? I mean, in this situation, first of all, the Fed has the most runway to act. Um, Bank of Canada, I'm sorry, Bank of England, ECB, even the RBA and the Bank of Canada and others, they just don't have the runway because their economies are not as strong to begin with and not as robust while dealing with inflation. So the Fed has more runway. I think the thing that could stop this Fed, that could get them to pause slash pivot, would be the effect that the strong dollar is going to have overseas. I mean, you take Japan, for example. Japan is going to try and shore up their currency a little bit. And in order to do that, they sell treasuries to have the dollars in order to defend the currency a little bit. And what does that do to yield? Makes yields go even higher. The dollar, um, my old boss from 1992, he texted me and said, his name's Todd Kobayashi. He texted me and said that the dollar is a cannonball wrecking through global markets and people don't really see it coming. But if you're going to be long a currency, you have to be long the dollar. To be long something else is catching a falling knife. It's financial suicide, I think, at least at this stage.
So I mean, I'm watching for my next target of 98.50 in the euro going into the ECB. But any thoughts on how the euro is going to react from a fundamental perspective with the ECB?
I suspect that however the euro reacts, it'll fall after that. So, in other words, if there's a panic sell, we might get a little bit of short covering rally and then it'll fall after that. If there's a rally because they were aggressive and talked about being more aggressive, the market will quickly realize in a day or so that they can't. They simply can't be endlessly aggressive. The FOMC, the U.S. Fed, can't be endlessly aggressive either, but they can be a lot more aggressive than the ECB can. They do not. We do not have the economic problems that Europe and the UK have. Um, it caused in part by the war and caused in part by Germany's rush to green energy, et cetera. So, and reliance on Russia as well. So we don't have those issues, at least short term. We have them medium and long term. We don't have them short term. So you just something has to change for me to have a different opinion on that.
All right. Before we wrap, any thoughts on crude with the OPEC cut, not a cut? Uh,
So it was funny again. Like Amina Bakar, who, if you guys are interested in crude oil, you should follow her. Her Twitter handle is AMENA_BAKR. Okay, she's a chief OPEC correspondent for Energy Intel, and she is on OPEC. I was watching her feed this whole weekend, watching to see what OPEC did. And OPEC, when they added the extra 100,000 barrels a day of production, she came out with a tweet that said, how do you do something without doing anything at all? You add 100,000 barrels, which was all that was left from their original production cut. So in other words, you go right back to normal. Now they took it back, and you could almost read the sort of eye roll tone to her tweet when they said that, where she's like, they just said that they never intended that extra 100,000 barrels to be permanent, and they took it back. My honest feeling, while my target is still in the 60s for crude oil, my honest feeling is OPEC may not let it get there. Now, that would be politically, oh my God, they would be just pariahs on a global stage if they did it this winter while the EU is struggling with heating their homes. So I suspect that's going to be the window for where the crude oil target in the 60s actually happens. But man, then I just think it's going to scream going into the next season. So that's fundamentally, I mean, technically I don't have a position either way right now.
uh, Natty Gas. By the way, if you haven't listened or watched the latest Futures Ed podcast, probably one of the best because of the guest lineup. But
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, Nat Gas is one of the things that Mike covered.
and we talked about the sloppy topping pattern, watching for the pullback. We got the pullback.
The pullback. People were asking me all day what's going on with this. Um, we basically got a little bit milder weather and we got a massive adjustment up of production for natural gas from the EIA. So we get that weekly number, but for the week ending August 26th, they adjusted the build to 61 billion cubic feet, which was more than they originally reported. So that's kind of where this comes from. And again, because we don't have the LNG refining capacity to take some of that excess production and send it to the EU, it just sits here waiting for us to use it. Now, we are still in deficit, by the way. We were at like a 312 billion cubic foot deficit. I'm kind of spitballing that because I don't remember exactly. But we're now still at a 228 billion cubic foot deficit to demand. All right, but it's tighter. It's gotten tighter. So, and if you look, we're still at pretty historically high natural gas prices despite today's 5% drop.
Just in case you were missing Chicago, Bob, new billboard.
Where's that?
Yeah, it's off one of the highways. If
You
you
don't
don't
like.
like being mugged, then you are the problem. In case you were missing it here.
Oh my God! Please send me that. I need that. I
I'll
just really want to know where it is.
have I'll find out where it is.
Yeah,
Did we talk about the BBBY? What happened to CFO? I just mentioned it yesterday, but
I don't
it's
pay much attention to those.
the CFO jumping out the window, because of this not good. But
Wait,
BBBY is going to zero no matter what.
the CEO killed himself.
The CFO,
The CFO killed himself.
yeah, he jumped out his window. Was it Friday or Saturday in New York City? He's getting hit along with Cohen with a huge lawsuit about stock manipulation. He jumped out his window, not leaving a note. BBY is just I mean, separate from that, which is very sad. Sometimes somebody does that, it's going back. As I said, it's my next target's 4, and then it's this thing's going to unravel to zero no matter what. It's just what's going to get it there.
Wow, that's crazy to me. I can't even believe that. I mean, when a CFO jumps, it's way worse than anybody else jumping. Not to make light of it, but like it's way
It's
worse for
not
the
good.
stock.
It's not good when your CFO kills himself.
Yeah.
They appointed the chief accounting officer, the interim CFO. By the way,
Wow, I didn't hear that.
yeah, but this is going to get very interesting. I mean, Cohen's all over this too. It's just the stuff that's going to come out with the manipulation. I bet, and
Yeah, the
every
Cohen thing is going to be really big.
it's good. And if our regulators again if this just disappears off the radar screen, then you might as well pack it in for any regulation whatsoever. That's my only thought about this.
Yeah.
Uh, uh let's see. Oh wait, I got to get to this. You're the best, Mike. See, you too, Bob. But let's look at the order of that. Just kidding.
Well, honestly, two people can't be the best. So,
Well,
Lauren,
I
you
think we have
correct
to
that.
go in the order it was stated. Then
I'm fine with it. Just put up. You're the second best, Bob. And I'll be
I'm just joking. I mean, we like to have fun on this. Uh Bob, we keep talking about looking for a Pell pivot here. When will the EU pivot on this nonsensical energy policy that's going to potentially freeze their citizens? Were you talking about the price caps and everything
So
else?
this is a problem with the ECB, Sterling, and the EU in general. They have a monetary union, but they don't have a union. Okay, so each country can do whatever the hell they want with their energy policy, as long as they have the money to do it and the infrastructure to do it. So they come together and discuss these things, and they're doing it now. But I mean, we've all seen, and again, by the way, like I didn't vote for Trump. We all seen that video where Trump was like, "You sure you want to try and get your gas from Russia?" That was what, 2017, 2018, something like that. And Germany said, "Yes, we do. We're good. Okay, no worries." Right? They all get their own decisions. So the EU pivoting from policy would be a country by country thing, Sterling. Um, yeah, I mean, I think they're learning their lesson to a certain degree. I mean, they're restarting nuclear plants.
Up, not up. Careful. Well, Germany's still going to shut down one more and keep 2 sort of around
Keep
till next
two around,
spring.
yeah,
Come
backups.
on, you. I mean, really?
It's asinine.
Because this isn't going to resolve. Let's say you limp through this winter, it's not going to get resolved.
It doesn't even start to account with the problems of agriculture globally to force a green agenda. I mean, fertilizers.
Well,
What are you going to do? Take corn from Iowa and put it on an electric tractor trailer to go 1,850 miles to California? I
well,
mean, it's nonsensical. And by the way, more than climate change, famine has killed more people in the history of human beings than anything.
yes.
It's hideous and horrible.
Well, all this green stuff now with the fertilizer regulations. Even look what they're trying to do in Canada. They're trying. I mean, you're literally going to crush the global crop yields if this stuff keeps going through, which is idiotic.
It's idiotic.
It's idiotic. Why would you be pursuing this now?
It's like you understand why people might think it's nefarious because it's so stupid. Like, can somebody be that stupid?
Well, it's asinine. It's like just throwing up here. Did you know there are 17 states who link to California emission standards? Therefore, technically, they are legally bound to what Cali did with regards to electric vehicles, which means, first off, you say, all right, this is still years away, but you, all right, we're only going to go all electric, right? But by the way, we have grid problems. Don't charge your electric cars.
Yeah.
Uh,
I look at it this way, guys, and then I'll let you guys go back to what you're doing. We have a system where laws can change every 2 to 4 years. Things can be struck down and reversed. And I really think when they do stuff like this, they're just trying to stay in office and that these things aren't going to happen. Like, we need all electric cars by 2035. It can't happen. It
no.
physically cannot happen. And they're like, oh, well, you'll still be able to buy used internal combustion engines. Oh, thanks. It physically can't happen. And they'll just adjust the law down the road if it even works to keep them in office. But
Although, I agree with you to a certain extent, but you know what? There's just so much idiocy out there. Sometimes they don't adjust stuff.
hey, they put that one California nuclear power plant closing on the ballot and they lost. It's staying open.
Yeah, which is good. Diablo Canyon.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk, at least that's one thing that they could do, but sooner or later we have to realize that these people making these decisions are not stupid. Everything we see has a plan and a motivation behind it. I I think you have a lot of stupidity.
Yeah. There's that.
I mean, you listen to these interviews. There. I think there is some of a more stronger movement that I was talking to a couple of what I consider insane greenheads, and I'm like, well, if these things with Europe and everything in fertilizer, what you just talked about, go through, we're gonna lots of people could potentially lose their lives, and they're like, well, why is that a bad thing? It just means we will have less impact on the earth. It's like, okay, let's just start sacrificing people because it's part of your agenda.
Who are you saving the earth for?
Yeah. Well,
By the way, if that's how you feel, why don't you kill yourself?
exactly. You go first.
The earth. You go first.
You go first. It's all insane.
All right, guys. Anybody else?
Nope, but we'll see you back on Thursday, right?
Oh, Tom saying it only goes up again. There we go. What a
Tom,
moron.
how can you say that on red days? It's actually not. It's
He's a troll.
nonsensical. But
He's
it's
a troll.
nonsensical. At least wait for a green day.
He's a troll. He's a moron. All right. I got to go, guys. We'll see you later.
All right. Bye. Okay. Hey, Christoph. He's probably the most short here. I don't know if he knows what a short is, Christoph. It takes a little skill to short. You have to understand borrow costs, too. You know what? Yeah. I mean, look, anybody can go long now, especially via Robinhood. Look, they've gamified it to the point where you just clicky on a little button and you're a stock trader. So, let's see. All right. Where do we sit? Okay, S&P closed, not closed below 62.5. Let's just take a look at that. NASDAQ closed below 62.5. Does that mean you can't have a bounce? No, I'm expecting a pretty significant bounce on a close-to-close basis. We're down 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't remember. Was this a close-to-close basis? In the cash, it's 5, 6, 7 now. In the futures, it's not that. But in the cash, this is a very long losing streak for the NASDAQ. With cycles at the bottom, with deeply oversold. So I'm definitely watching for the bounce. By the way, these double bottom patterns are off the table. Just wanted to wait for this. Another thing, I am taking this off, even though we came within a hair of this final target. I'm taking these off to unclutter the charts at this point. We already know what the game plan is. I'll go through what I'm keeping an eye on now. I'll take this one off too. 11.9. We virtually have a harmonic there anyways. The Dow also completed its head and shoulders. Wow, if the market only goes up, how did these head and shoulder ever get to target? Amazing when a market always goes up. But that's done. And now the Russell, I'll leave that one on. But the double bottom, potential double bottom that never triggered is off the table. Let's see. Where do we sit? So the key things, again, the Russell, no close below the 62.5 yet. The Dow, the close below the 62.5, well below the 62.5, and the NASDAQ, well below. So we, probability-wise, 2 out of 4 favor a retest of the June low areas. Do keep that in mind. Does that mean that has to happen in the next couple of days? No. Would I be surprised to see a rally? No, not out of cycle bottoms with deeply oversold. Would not be surprised to see us retest the daily rotation zone. Here's what I'm watching. Just let me roll something out here. Bumping down this level. Why am I bumping down this level? This was an emotional candle close, validated by a low here and this spike high. What's interesting, if you were trying to trade something shorter term, a close above this 4-hour bar would be a very aggressive buy signal. Now, I just wanted to review something. So that's something I'm going to be watching for. Why? Because then a close above today's high rolls it into another buy signal. So this is how you can roll buys together. Let's say we this is again hypothetical for P. I'm not recommending a trade here. I'm giving instruction in the time frames. Don't matter. I'm stacking time frames together. So you can see here, here's why this is an emotional level. Key close, 2 key closes, rapid move away on this wide range bar, retested twice. So you break above this level on a shorter term chart, and then you close above it. Well, break above this, I favor watching for 39.43. You close above this on a 4-hour basis, it rolls into a more aggressive buy. All right, then where do we sit? If the rally continues and gets above today's high, and what was today's high? We already had a significant level at right up here at 39.61. Today's high was 39.63. So let's say it continued tomorrow and maintained above 39.63. That would then roll it into a retest, and I'd be watching for 39.84 to 39.93 to unwind a partial position and aggressively move up a stop. Why would it be an aggressive move up the stop? Because we'd be entering the area of the daily rotation zone, taking this out of oversold condition, and then try to ride if this has a couple day rally in it, especially if we get some dollar weakness with a little euro pop. After the ECB, we could easily come all the way up into some other key levels like 40.31 before a rollover, even to 40.56 before a rollover play. So we'll be rolling, again, long positions, although raising stops at each of these key levels. Now, if none of that triggers, it doesn't matter. Levels to the downside. Just wanted to use that as a little teaching moment. And that's not something you have to do with a daily and a 4-hour. That can be done with a 5-minute and a 15-minute and a 1-hour. It's using cascading setups to say, okay, I got a trigger. If that officially closes with that trigger, I can then try to manage that through the next triggering trade and then roll it into, that's the way I say you can turn a shorter term position into a slightly longer term position. Do you want to just blindly say, okay, above 39.19 or whatever this high was, the high 39.2075. Oh, Mike says it's a buy. Well, if it doesn't close above that level, it's not a buy. So you can't just say, I'm just going to buy and walk away. No, that has to be an actively managed position. And that works on the upside and the downside when you get cascading buy or sell triggers. And that's how I look to roll them into the next longer position. Only if that next longer position triggers and confirms on a closing basis. If it triggers and then doesn't confirm on the closing basis, I unwind the shorter trade at a key profit level. All right. So let me just review the levels now. Just wanted to use that as a slight teaching moment. This 39.20 area, 39.43, 39.61 are the upside targets. And then I listed the next higher one, 39.84. To the downside, 38.89, 38.74, and then 38.50. Those are your current upside and downside targets. The NASDAQ, the level I'm keying off of right now. I'm not going to go through all the key levels. There isn't the same. Let me just tell you right now. The aggressive buy would be above this bar's high on a 4-hour closing basis only. 12,067. You got the 4-hour rotation zone right in the way. I'd favor the ES one over that. But above this level, next key areas back to this 12,150. And then I'm putting in an intermediate level at 12,195 to 12,200 and above there, 12,159. To the downside, target now is, again, today's low, 11,930. Then I'm 11,906 to 11,930, and then 11,867. The Dow, same thing. Close on a 4-hour basis above this bar's high, 31,245. Again, keep in mind these are going against the rotation zones, but we are in these deeply oversold conditions, so I am more aggressively watching for the short-term bounce trades. No, this does not mean new highs. This means return to the daily rotation zone as we tapped last week. If we do break today's lows, next target in the Dow, 30,900, then their major target, just get out there, is 30,611. Russell, still, if we break back down, 1775. To the upside, first is 1805. Notes, closing in, but not yet. They're a wide range bar. Key reversal wide range bar, 115.07 is the next target area on that. Would not step in front of this freight train. Dollar index, we'll be watching for a pause going into Thursday. But your key support is now back at virtually today's low, this 109.37. I'll get to comments in a second. Crude, nothing going on there. We're in major between buying and selling pressure. Breakdown zone for me is back below about 85.75, targeting 83.71. Can't really do anything to the bullish side until it gets above 90.50. We already looked at Nat Gas. VIX, still, now we have a pretty key level. See, this is a very key level right there. So 26.91, 27, you can watch. That's a break above there, shifts me into short-term bearish mode. As long as that level holds, your key support now is back at 25.46. So I'll use the short-term direction as either choppy bullish or choppy bearish. So climbing back up towards, and we should pull back a little bit, climbing back up and above 26.91. Choppy bearish. We start accelerating below about mid 27, very bearish. We start pulling back, choppy bullish. We break below 25.50. I get a little more bullish for a little longer sustained move, which could mean an extra day in this environment. I think that's about it. Where do we sit? what Elon's doing, using us all as crash test dummies for full self-driving. That's very interesting to see that campaign against him now, with the cars hitting the kids. Fascinating. Did you have a Tesla, Lauren? They tried to steer. I guess you do. Tried to steer you off it. I've told you. I think off their. I'm my background's electrical engineering. I mean, I have a degree in electrical engineering, and I do know. I mean, I'm not. Engineering is now a hobby of mine. I think just with their current hardware setup, there is no way they're anywhere close that they will ever be able to eke out full self driving with their current hardware. And the fact that this beta is being rolled, we're all crash test dummies. And I'd hate to be in front of a Tesla on a motorcycle on a California highway because you're a sitting friggin' duck. And that's not slamming. Well, it is slamming. I think Elon, not an engineer, calls himself an engineer, is full of absolute crap when it comes to most engineering principles. That's my little rant for today. You can trade the stock all day long. That's why we follow. Speaking of that, Tesla, keep an eye on this potential double bottom. You'd need a 4-hour or daily close back above 282.35 for a little short bounce play, roughly back to the 200. Other than that, the double top is still in play. Sorry for this unrelated post, but did you know that if student loan borrowers take the forgiveness, that all their outstanding interest from their other loans will be rolled into their new loan? Did not know that, Sterling. Very interesting. They would be paying interest on interest. It's a scam. We'll forgive $10,000 that would cost you $50,000. Look, the leaders, I think, are abysmal across the board. I think government should be involved in very little stuff. I'm a libertarian, and not the insane kind of libertarian. National defense, yes. Some interstate commerce, yes. Most of the stuff the government should get the hell out of the way, and we get all this crap out of here. Also get the government out of college loan business, and I think the government should be out of the mortgage business. I think the government should be out of all this. Get the government the hell out of our way, because all they do is create more and more problems, and anything they try to do to solve a problem creates another problem. So there you go. I am for small government and less regulations, except in key areas. And look, our regulators don't do crap anyways. Look at all these institutions we have. Look at the useless SEC. Why even bother having them? Let's just make it a free-for-all in the markets. You might as well do it anyways. You're useless. Why do I need to pay for all this garbage with my taxes? Jeez. These people wouldn't understand anything economically. Run your own business for a while and then decide, figure it out. These people couldn't run their own business. Why they're lifelong politicians, most of them. There are a couple good ones. Other than that, they couldn't run a business to save their life. They'd need their own bailouts. That's why they're so good at bailing stuff out, because they can't even understand basic economic and financial principles. And that, I'm not just talking about this country. Look at the ECB and the European Union. What a crock of crap. Let's put price caps on Russian oil. They've already cut you off, you friggin' morons. Let's cap their price. Let's cap everything's price. Let's just bail out. Let's just print more money. Let's make the situation we've already made with this keeping interest rates negative for years. Now you're verging on hyperinflation over there. Oh, let's bail more things out and print more money. Morons. Hey, Panveet, thank you for being here. Went from a plus 2% day to a minus 5% day, got chopped up. What are the characteristics to identify the choppy day at the earliest? I start watching tick and trend, and when you don't get a trending day, start doing some research into tick and trend because that will help keep you. And remember, 70 to 80% of days aren't strongly trending. They're more keyed to choppy or reversal based days. So also keep that in mind. What another thing I do, Pavneet, sorry. I can't pronounce stuff right. I got dyslexia. Pavneet. I also, a little great exercise is to track, along with your trades in your trading journal, track time of day trades. I learned from doing that in the past that I used to give a lot. My best trading times were open, even slightly before the open, through through 10 a.m. And then for the most part, 10 a.m. to about 2 p.m., and I'm talking Central Time, uh, drawdowns to possibly break even from establishing new trades, not good. And then after 2 p.m., was good again. So what do I learn? Don't initiate, from my own perspective. I don't look to initiate a lot of trades between, if at all, between 10 and 2, unless there's an amazing setup with very high probabilities, because generally it was a drawdown period intraday. So why do that? Now, that does not mean that trades can't be managed, stops can't be raised, research can't be done. And besides that, I'd start looking and learn to look at the tick and trend. Which thing were you referring to, Christoph? Ronald Reagan quote: "The nine most terrifying girls." Yeah, I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Yeah, morons. Well, a lot that goes on is criminal regarding certain things. EU is already in a recession, but they still plan on giving out stimulus. Why? Look, it's absurd. We're going to go through some really interesting times because we can't even get politicians. They couldn't. They couldn't make the right decision if they saw the future at this point. Yes, he's Sterling. I hate trading from 11:30 a.m. to Eastern to 1:30 p.m. It's really important to track, and you know what? Learn when your trading is not good or when your probabilities are lower, and sit on your hands, go do something else, or just manage the trades you're already in, or do your research, or find longer term setups. I love researching other great setups, like going through daily charts and everything at that time and saying, okay, what are some other potentially good setups for initiating swing trades? Tomorrow, Apple's announcement on the new iPhone 14, maybe the short-term pushback up, no clue, but only positive for tech. And remember, any bounce in tech, uh, because of where it sits sector-wise, would be just an aggressive bounce. It's nothing to get married to. Also, Apple, it would be a play above today's high. The only thing, if you're trying to play this above today's high, you got some major resistance, so at this 159. And then even the longer term target, because remember, this hit the head and shoulders tops. The only thing you have left, even above the daily rotation zone, is a little gap left behind. Do keep that in mind because we could be getting a rollover play on the weekly soon. We'll take a look at the Qs and the spiders tomorrow morning, though. Morons is right. I'm sorry for the rants, but that's just, I'm very passionate. I love having dual citizenship, but I'm not. Don't get me started on Canada because that's my other citizenship, because that's being run completely by morons now. Morons. We alluded to it with their fertilizer stuff. Literally, Really? Start looking up the new what Trudeau's trying to do with fertilizer in Canada. And it'll just, if you have half a brain at all, it'll blow your mind. I don't even know where I'd move at this point because I'm looking around the world and I'm thinking, there's not a lot of sanity left in this world. There isn't. Tell me some place is acting sane right now. Between ludicrous COVID policy and all this stuff that's beyond that that's been going on from an economic and financial standpoint for the last few years, and that continues now. Tell me some place is managed properly, please. Because I'm looking around and I'm not seeing a lot out there. And you can't say Australia or New Zealand because they've gone off the deep end too. Problem is now that politicians only care about getting reelected, not about what's best for the country. We have a lot of self-interested people in positions that require sacrifices. And I think service to this country should be a sacrifice, and I agree. And I love term limits like that's ever going to happen. Get these idiots out. But then you get the populace says, oh, I'll just vote for this. People don't even pay attention anymore. The people who just blindly vote for a party, you don't even look at their positions anymore. Most of them are garbage. It doesn't matter Republicans or Democrats. They're just, it's bad or not as bad, or bad another way. I'm tired. I want some people that actually want to stand up for some, but a lot of people think, oh, socialism's the answer. Really? Hey, I lived in Canada. I lived over in Europe. I don't know. I don't think socialism's anywhere close to a friggin' answer. Nowhere near. We just don't even have capitalism anymore. We have this crony-ass capitalism backed by government. We don't even, anybody who thinks we're in a capitalist society is kidding themselves at this point. Jeez. Let's see how many subscribers I lose now. Are you going to see the same problem just like the EU, for example? The pandemic got worse in the EU, then it got worse here? Probably. Hungary? I am getting dinner's almost time. No, I don't know. I'd have to research. I just don't know where to go at this point. I just want some sanity in the world. All right. With that, thank you anybody who stuck around. Sorry for the rants. Sorry, not sorry, I guess. Hopefully you'll tune in tomorrow. Again, let's see if we get some little short-term bounce patterns on the markets that always go up. It's like watching those meetings in Davos where the global elites are supposedly have meetings to determine how to lessen their influence on the world. Yeah, right. I did Tesla. I'll just show you, get Christoph. You're still in the bearish pattern. The only thing would be a short-term bounce on a close on a 4-hour or daily close. You can see it here, 4-hour double bottom. It would be on that close above 282.31, 290.39, 294.43, 298.47. What's interesting on that is if you're still playing along with home with the bigger bearish pattern, it has not hit stop reduction. Oops, I put it on the wrong way. Maybe I'm the moron. Maybe I am. Look, that could actually complete without stopping out the original trade on a closing basis. That's where it's nice to know where your levels are going into stuff. Could a bullish pattern even take this back to the 200? And the 50% level from the double top pattern, yes. Now, if you were more aggressively lowering your stops, if it hit the third target and closed above there, it would stop out if you were using the more aggressive stop raising. But it has not hit stop reduction yet. Well, I hope you have a great day off, Sterling. Thank you for everything you do on Twitter. I lived in Texas. There are too many, Texas. Where I was living, it was turning into mini California. They're all complaining about California, but then they want the same policies in Texas. You're welcome, Christoph. I'm definitely not a moron. Thanks, Christoph. Uh, the great country of Texas. Again. I lived there. I've lived in Texas 3 times. I've lived in the Dallas Fort Worth area. I've lived in the Austin area. I've lived in Austin was. Don't even get me started. That was almost like a different country within Texas. But I lived in Houston and Dallas, but even Dallas was turning into with a bunch of boy. I couldn't talk to some of the people who were moving there. They're like they're fleeing their states and complaining that it's not more like their state. That was getting flushed down the toilet. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.